these fancy schools were schools that gave birth to the empire. They would produce public school boys who would then go to Oxford and Cambridge, who would then come and rule savages like us, brownie fuzzy wuzzies, right? Clearly they were entirely uncivilized. We wanted the English to tell us what to do, to create our civil services for us. Benjamin Jowett did, and we are still very proud to go into those same structures, and we haven't changed them since independence. But that whole narrative was epitomized by the BBC. Who watches the BBC? Raised your hand. Yeah. It's a great news channel. That's true, but it gives you the English perspective. The Economist. Who reads The Economist? Raise your hand. You read The Economist?
Yes.
Excellent. We are going to have a chat later.
Absolutely. It's my favorite go-to newspaper.
Yeah, and it is the best in the world, but it gives you the English public schoolboy perspective.
Yes,
It says we should invade Iraq. For 104 years it said India didn't deserve its independence. It makes great claims. And so what you have now for 2 centuries, since 1843 and earlier, is a domination of discourse by the English, by 2 universities and a few schools. The internet has made something like us possible. What are we doing? We are bringing you narratives from Kenya, Brazil, from India. We are saying, hey, hang on a moment. People who are black and brown and yellow and whatever color, of skin that you can imagine, and if they are white and they are in Hungary, and if they are white they are in England and they didn't go to Oxbridge, and if they are white they are these Johnny-come-lately cowboys from America, they can have a view too on the world. And what we are doing is democratizing and globalizing the discourse. And we are doing it because of the internet, because of Skype. There is no money, we have no money. But all of us got the education through scholarships and whatever. We felt discriminated against by the British, and we said we have to challenge their narratives. So the internet makes that possible. However, the internet, as I said, is a double-edged tool. It also means people have less time to read. We produce articles that are incredibly nuanced. Sometimes even written by undergrads at Yale. There's a boy called Brian Mbiti, who's written, a Kenyan boy, written a brilliant article on the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and the controversy that it has been involved in with Kenya. It is out of the world. He's done a lot of research. He's very young. He's a prodigy. He's going to make a name for himself. But hardly anyone's reading these days. People are on Facebook. How many of you are on Facebook? Raise your hands. Everyone. Fantastic. Fantastic. And you do know that there is no privacy in Facebook. You do know it's run by a bunch of rich Harvard Jewish kids who are getting richer by the day because you're spending time on it and making them rich. But it is addictive. It does provide a social service at a time of atomization because it's so convenient. And because you're not talking to each other, you're not doing enough fun things, perhaps because society has also become crowded, perhaps because getting from A to B is harder. You're not living in a village that you're going and stealing mangoes for fun. That's what my dad did when he was young. It sounds a hell of a lot more cooler than doing the crap that you can do on video games. You actually get chased by people, you run, you play all these games on video. I mean, I've seen some video games, I've never played them. I said, you know what, I did that for fun. I was in Nagaland. I used to run around with guns. I used to escape, people. I went to Kashmir. So what you're playing in video games, I've done that in real life. It's a lot cooler. It's riskier. That's the whole point. But we are living in a virtual reality, and that world of intrusion and constant bombardment means our minds are in Brownian motion. That means we have lost in what our ancient philosophers called Maya. It's a very old concept. Maya ki charam seema pahunch chuki. And so, a lot of great things are made possible by the internet, but there's this huge dislocation because certainly values are in flux. Values are not being transmitted. Certainly time is not being spent face to face. The human element is certainly declining. People no longer shake hands properly. It's amazing. I see people shake hands and they don't look you in the eye. So there's a lot that is being, the human element, a lot of the human element is also in danger. And perhaps, hopefully, we'll come to deal with it and do something, we'll gain something, we'll reach equanimity. Hopefully we will. But we have to acknowledge the risks of the current times. Because unless we look the problem in the eye, we'll never have a solution. And that is a major problem. And it's a global problem. So that's the answer to your question. Next question, you read The Economist. What is the most important international issue? I'll give you a mic.
Sir, I think for me...
Name, introduction.
Pooja Gupta. So for me, I think it will be it will be Ukraine's invasion by Russia. And how this is indicative of this new era that we're entering, that is not directly ruled by American liberalist ideas. It's a post-America world that we're entering since their economic power is waning. And now that they don't get to decide everything, what will the world be like?
Question.
Yes, sir.
What do you think of the invasion? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, or do you think it's complicated?
I think it was very complicated.
Why is it
because
complicated?
Crimea, I've been to that place, and it's
Crimea, so you've been there.
Yeah. I think it's very complicated because that region itself was sovereign and they voted to be a part of Russia. The population there...
So there are two things. You said, you first called it an invasion of Ukraine, and now you're conflating the invasion of Ukraine with Crimea's union with Russia. Two separate things.
They are two separate things, but when you read it in the newspapers and magazines...
Which newspapers and magazines?
The local ones that are published...
All right, who writes in it?
So, Indians do.
Okay. And what do they have to say?
So sometimes they are usually accusing Russia of being imperialistic in the 21st century.
I see.
But, okay, so...
And The Economist definitely accuses Russia of being an imperialist power.
Definitely,
Right.
and so does The Observer, The Mirror, the Huffington Post, Washington Post, the New York Times, everyone.
Everyone, that's all American names, by the way,
Yes.
and some English names. So you're just reading the English narrative. The American narrative.
Yeah, but I think that, America is being a hypocrite if it feels that Russia is invading on other people's privacy, because they do it all the time. Be it Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan.
That's a great point.
They're just being hypocrites, and therefore there is no reason for us to take their word for things. And so, well, people say that Iran, when it launched its nuclear program, and Ahmadinejad said that, okay, we will not bow down to America's rules about things. So he was criticized, right? Global criticism, and he was condemned globally, but then I felt that he was right. I mean, I think I should shut up.
No, you're making a great point. You're doing excellent. Give her a hand. Give her a hand. Never shut up. Lesson 1 in life. Never shut up. We teach that in all of Asia. Shut up. And we learn to shut up. And this is what the English public school boy never learns. He walks in with a sense of entitlement that he was born to rule over you because he has whiter skin and he's taller, and he believes he has a God-given right to write not just his laws but your laws. So you never shut up.
Yes.
Good points. Now, what you've said is a complicated situation. It's a complicated situation. There are many principles at play. So, first principle is the principle of sovereignty, state sovereignty, the idea that a state is a sovereign state. And by sovereignty, we mean that you do not intrude into the affairs of a sovereign state once a state is sovereign. But there's also this idea of self-determination, which is clashing, because if we believe in self-determination, then Crimeans do have a right to vote to join Russia.
And And they have said yes, they want to join
Yes, and although people may dispute the intimidation in the election and the persecution of the Tatars, reality is always complicated. The majority of Crimeans, as they exist, have voted to join Russia, and people forget. Till 1954, Crimea was a part of Russia.
Yes.
And it was given by Khrushchev to Ukraine to celebrate 300 years of union with Russia. So the Soviet Union was one entity. So obviously the Russians would always take back Crimea because they have their Black Sea Fleet. The great game was played in the 19th century between Britain and Russia so that Russia could break out of its frozen hinterland and gain access to warm waters. Otherwise, Russia was locked into frozen seas in the north. And all they could do was go and kill polar bears. Right? Now global warming may change that. They might also, start drilling in big time and whatnot. And there might be a sea route over the Arctic. But the point is that Russia fought damn bloody hard to get access to warm waters. And it fought the Ottoman Empire, and the French and the British fought with the Ottomans, and that's how they gained Crimea. And yes, it was bloody and it was brutal, and yes, they exercised control. But you're bang on the money in pointing out two fundamental things. Who arrogates to themselves the right to write the laws of the universe? That's important. That's a fundamental question. And two, when you do write the laws of the universe, you have to follow them. Because the big problem which America is facing is not that what it's arguing for is necessarily wrong, or what Britain's arguing for is necessarily wrong. What is happening is that other people are wisening up to the fact that the invasion of Iraq was fundamentally illegal.
Weapons of mass destruction.
WMD. That was a joke. That was untrue. Alright? People are wisening up to the fact that the terms of trade imposed on most of the colored world are unfair. That discourse is dominated entirely by people of a particular skin color and of a particular origin. And the narratives of the colonized, and what I call the majority world, the great tribes in various parts of Africa, or even our own Northeast and Southeast Asia, the vast plains and rivers of the world, whether it is the Ganges or Ganga, or it is the Yangtze, or it is even the Danube. They are not heard, they are never heard, or even Mississippi and Missouri. The New York Times correspondent who's come to this country is a monolingual American who writes bullshit. Pardon me?
Friedman?
Thomas Friedman. No. The current New York Times Delhi chief, whatever his name is. Gardner Harris is probably right. I don't know. Maybe I'm confused. But whatever. The point is, it's amazing that you send your foreign correspondents. I know foreign correspondents who got confused between the Turks and the Mughals. They don't know the dates of invasion of this country, and they come to Delhi and write about this country. They don't speak a single Indian language. And a lot of our country people are Macaulay's illegitimate children, I call them. They still rule this country believing that anyone who speaks the vernacular, whether it is Bangla, whether it is Tamil, whether it is Telugu, whether it is, Assamese, that's the language of the drivers and bodyguards. And if you don't speak English, you're certainly not educated. As if Premchand was an idiot because he wrote Hindi literature. As if Rabindranath was an idiot because he just wrote in Bangla. The point is, we ourselves have internalized that colonization, and we have deference to the white man. And that's why we allow this to happen. And so, the most important thing is, if we are going to be democratized and globalized, we'll have to ask these questions. There are no clear answers. But there are many narratives, and that is what we do. That's why we have something called a 360-degree analysis. We give context of the Ukraine issue, and there are many narratives. You even hear the Russian point of view. You hear the dissident Russian view. You hear the English view. You hear the Indian view. And these clash of different principles. And yes, you're bang on the money. The current world order is unsustainable. Let's take India and Pakistan. Cyril Ratcliffe comes to India, right? He's never been to India. Comes to India, divides the country, goes back, burns the papers. We still don't know how the world's biggest human population transferred, how the world's biggest exodus took place. And so, I will end with this because I think I'm running out of time. I've run out of time. I'll end with this. That this is what education is about. It is asking fundamental questions. And if you ask fundamental questions, you will even end up in the long run in a better job. You will be the CEO. You won't be the monkey, in the bottom. You will eventually be an entrepreneur. You will eventually be a leader. You will eventually move the needle and change the order of the universe. And with that note, it is thank you very much to all of you.
We thank you, Mr. Atul, for joining us today. Your forthright and candid style kept us all captivating. Your energy is truly inspiring, and we all hope to grow up into intellectual citizens, never ceasing to gain more knowledge. We feel extremely grateful to have had you here. Thank you.
For having selected our school. He was very keen to come and address us here, and thank you so much because you set our thinking caps on. It was a very inspiring and, as she said, a very captivating presentation. So please do keep up and visit us again when you're in Delhi. Thank you again. We have to rush now. Please keep